As with most industries, the oil and gas industry has a ton of legal landmines that you can hit. And you can do some things to protect. I want to just throw out a couple different legal landmines that are sitting out there, and just think about how can we start to protect you against those potential landmines. What I like to look at when it comes to the pitfalls in the oil and gas, whether you're a startup or an established company, some of the things you have to deal with is your entity. You might have an LLC, you might have a corporation, you might have a Delaware corporation. It really varies as to what you're doing, but you might have partners, you might have fellow shareholders, investors. And as you look at your entity, you really want to make sure you have things organized correctly. And in the way that you have things organized, are you following the rules that you organized your company under? So if your rules stipulate you have to do certain things, hold certain meetings, engage in certain activities, you got to follow your own rules. Another thing is you don't cover your IP. That might be your trademark. You have a famous trademark, you're using your name in the industry. You don't want someone in North Dakota to start using your name when you're in Colorado or vice versa, or Texas or wherever. You want to protect it on a national basis. If you want to grow your innovative business, innovative oil and gas business, you really got to think, how are you protecting that IP? How are you protecting your name? And that extends into how are you protecting your innovative ideas in the form of patents, in the form of trade secrets, from contracts. And that kind of brings up clarity in contracts. So you have to have clear contracts with your vendors. You have to have clear MSAs. You have to have clear agreements with the different parties you deal with, so that as issues arise, as disputes come up, as things go wrong, you have a clear understanding of what you're doing and how you're protecting yourself. And finally, I like to look at investors. Like I said, you might have investors, and you got to make sure you're dealing with your investors properly. If you're not dealing with your investors properly, securities law can come to bite you very quickly. And as you know, in the oil and gas industry, capital is a big deal, and securities oftentimes get into play. I take one example, securities in North Dakota. Securities can, cause you a lot of trouble if you don't simply go out and file some notices with the various government authorities. You might end up personally liable for that business investment. So make sure you do your due diligence when you're bringing on investors, when you're bringing on capital, and do it right so that if things go wrong, you're not stuck holding the bag. Now, like I always say, IP, contracts, legal work, it's only as good as the business behind it. So as you develop and grow your business, you have to think about, how does the legal work tie into the business world? And if you don't, combine the two properly, that work might not be on point as to what you really want. Here at Fargo Patent Business Law, we work really hard to try to make sure the legal work, whether it's IP or contracts or whatever it is, matches your business strategy. Feel free to reach out. Love to hear from you.